I'll do the snake of clay. Infinite, where's the other project? I can tell you that for nothing. Tiny baby snake. Hi, hello and welcome to Reluctant Mongoose, my little space on the internet designed to help me keep me accountable for being creative and hopefully inspire you to be creative too. My name is Lil, and caveat, I have already filmed the main section of this video. I was really excited to get going into this, but that excitement soon dissipated and you'll see why. So we won't hang around here, we'll get straight on with that. Okay, so with a kit like this, I firmly believe that you should get everything that you need to complete the kit within the kit. So let's open this up and see what's actually included in it, and then we can decide if we actually need anything else. Sponge, cheap. Rolling pin. Tea light candle. Varnish. Base coat, which is helpful. Seal the clay. A tiny bauble, that's the word I'm looking for. Little star cutter. There's some, looks like polymer clay. This looks like a little ornament paint. There's some templates. There's a paintbrush. It's all branded, which is something, I suppose. Teeny tiny star. Single wooden clay sculpting tool. The infamous tiny bits of ribbon. Some wine charms. I think those are probably to go with the cookie cutters. Some more polymer clay, and then a big bag of potted super clay. So, oh, hang on. Some little bits of, I think that's probably wire armature or something for one of the projects. So for essentially 50 quid, you've got some bits of paper with some stuff printed on it, bag of air dry clay, a paintbrush. Notice there was no paints. No paint, so that's a big difference between this one and the American version. The American version had paint in it. This has no paint in it. So we've got paint projects and a paintbrush with no paint. We've got these two tiny things of base coat and varnish, which again, what are you gonna base, if you base coat something, you expect to be able to paint something, and there's no paint. You've got a single sculpting tool, which in my experience is not good enough. For reference, my history and my background is in ceramics. So 20 years ago I did my university degree, and that was in ceramics and clay work, and I can tell you right now, this is not everything that you need to complete these kits, not by a long shot. And I'm actually very disappointed with the level of what's in here. Very disappointed, especially considering that I've seen other people open up the other versions of this box and they've got paint in there, and that is not included in this. There used to be 7 projects. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but with part of the project missing. 6, and where's the other one? I don't know. I'm not seeing it yet. Who knows? I'm gonna clear down and find the things that I'm gonna need for just getting started on some of these projects, and we'll see how I go. Okay, so I've gone rifling through my old ceramics supply. And that's not in focus. And I've got some bits and pieces of stuff that I consider essential for when working with any type of clay. Caveat, I am used to the type of clay that you fire in a kiln as opposed to air dry clay, but I would imagine that it behaves fairly similarly. A scrap of fabric so that you're not going to get the clay sticking to whatever surface you're working on. Wire for getting through the clay, cutting off the bits that you want to use. Additional sculpting tools. These ones, this one in particular, I find very useful. These ones I don't use very much at all. These are also sculpting tools for removing excess and trimming. pokey thing for holes also helps with scratching off your joins so that you can add water and get things to join properly. Knife, because that won't cut anything, it's useless. And I used to have a rubber rib for smoothing things down, but can only find this metal one. That's that. I also have a whole bunch of cake decorating tools, which are super useful for clay modelling. And last but not least, whenever you're going to have to roll clay flat, the best thing to do is your clay between two things that are the same height, so that you're rolling it level. I used to have some like thin wooden baton strip things which you can pick up from most DIY stores, but I can't find them, so I've got these bits of old laminate cut-offs which I'm going to use to sandwich the clay in the middle. The first project we're going to do is day one, which is the gingerbread man, so I'm going to get on with doing that. The other thing that you need that this doesn't come with is a pair of scissors, because you need to cut this guy out in order to trace around it. How difficult would it have been for Pott'd to just include the cutout shapes? Not very difficult at all. My ire is building as I kind of get on with this, which is not a good thing, not a good sign. I have already sent an email to Pott'd now because there should be acrylic paint in this set and there isn't, so that is clearly missing. And or just something that they've sent to the American market, I don't know. But if they're expecting us to paint something and they haven't included paint, it's not a complete kit. At least this is well wrapped, so it shouldn't have dried out. Which reminds me, I need to go and fill a spray bottle with water. When you're working with any kind of clay like this, air dry or kiln fire, it's really important to not let your clay get too dry too quickly. Otherwise you'll end up with cracks and splits and all sorts all over the place. So again, they should have included a spray bottle and or something for water. And a pair of scissors would have been nice as well. If this is supposed to have everything in it to be able to do the project, you need scissors, because they haven't pre-cut the stencils and they haven't made it so that this is all that easy to open. And you can see here why it's easier to do. Cut this with a bit of wire. Let me show you. How easy was that? So much easier than trying to pull it and ending up with finger marks everywhere. Easier, cleaner, all the rest of it. Now, important, do put your clay back inside the an airproof container. So once I'm done with this, I will put it inside something else that's airtight as well, so that it doesn't dry out. And they say to work the clay. This doesn't feel like it needs an awful lot of working, to be honest. This is why we use the fabric. I'll show you now. Clay. This is also where you see how wibbly wobbly the table is. In between the two bits of fabric, bits of level stuff either side. It's going to need to be at least that wide, so that's fine. And then we roll. And this is a lot easier to do and avoids getting any kind of lumps of clay on the rolling pin. You will also see it won't get stuck to the table or greaseproof or whatever else you've been using underneath. So much easier, if you ask me. Just make sure that is, and that was just with one sweep, so rather than going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, we've just done that in one sweep. Just make sure it's wide enough. It is. Let's turn it over, let's have that side up. Pop our gingerbread man in there. We're just going to lightly press over that just to make sure it's indented, because it's going to be easier to cut it out that way with the indented shape in there. Can you see that? There you go. And this is where we use a knife instead of the actual, I think they called this a clay cutting tool. That is not a clay cutting tool. That's used for something else. It's not a clay cutting tool. It's almost as if these people have never done ceramics before in their life. And this is also where you see how wobbly my hands are. Okay, so the tutorial wants us to roll out a snake of clay to go around the edge of our gingerbread man. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. I think the thing with snakes of clay is that it's very difficult to get them looking all uniform, and I'm not very good at it. So I would rather have like a strip of clay. But yeah, no, I'm going to do a strip of clay. I'm going to pop this little chappy over here, squidge this back together. I'm going to roll out a strip between the two boards, and it also helps the clay from spreading really far if you're working in new money instead of old money. Now I might want to make this a bit thinner, to be fair, because that'll make it quite chunky. So the thickness of this is probably 7mm, something like that. I'm going rogue. To be fair, I knew it would. I knew it would happen. Clay is very forgiving. I will say this, looks like they have at least given us enough of the clay to do the projects they've got. Right, let's get our gingerbread man. And what we're going to do is separate these strips. By using these strips, it's going to be even the whole way around, rather than lumpy and bumpy and unsightly and horrible. We are then going to score all the way around our gingerbread man, because this will give the clay something to attach itself to. If you don't do this, it will basically just fall apart. Now we've done that, we need to do the same to the bottom of these snakes of clay. More surface area for the clay to stick to itself with. I'm going to get that and add water into all these bits where we've scored up, because in order to stick, the clay needs to be wetter. Normally what I do with kiln fire clay is use slip to stick the stuff, but I think with air dry you don't need that. You just need to have quite wet clay. So positioning doesn't need to be perfect to start with, because it's clay, it's mouldable. And this is where I prefer this tool to that. That is quite big and bulky. This has got more precision, and you can literally just use a tiny point of it to pull some of the clay down and into the sides, into that. You can also do is use a tiny little teeny tiny snake, teeny tiny baby snake, to help reinforce that joint. And we'll do this around the outside as well, so, and don't worry, I haven't forgotten it needs to go all the way around the whole gingerbread man. I have remembered that. Also going to score these little slopey bits, and I left them sloped for a reason, and you'll see that in a second. See? Joined on to the slopey bits. This is when I wish I had multiple cameras so I could give you more than one angle. Now we will take some time to get this looking all nice and neat, and there are some extra steps we can do when it's a bit drier as well. And I did just dip my smushing tool into the water there, just because it does help lubricate it a little bit. My fingers aren't delicate enough to go into those little holes, especially when they're shaky. And this is the other reason why I use fabric when rolling out my clay. The actual surface that it leaves behind isn't the surface that you're going to be left with, because you spend so much time actually then working it afterwards that you basically, it's all smushed out. So if I can get that close up, I'm not sure if you can see that, but you can see there's some fabric texture sort of in here, but where I've been smushing it around there, it's all gone. today. Thank you so very much for watching. Do like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, share the video if you, well, the channel if you know anyone else who might enjoy it. I'm still quite little and I'm doing this more for me than anyone else, but obviously all those little things do help boost the old confidence when doing these sorts of things. I am planning to continue with the rest of the calendar because I bought it, I'm going to use it. So the next one I'm going to do, it will be day 3, and I believe that's the polymer clay project, so I will get that done next. But in the meantime, have a great week. Bye.